It's recommended that before you watch this video, you watch last week's episode of Flat Ride of the Week, as much of the information in this video will be built off information in that video. Following the success of the original Waikiki Wave, Vekoma introduced the Waikiki Wave Superflip in 1993. This was an upgraded version of the Waikiki Wave. Compared to the standard version, Superflip has brakes added to the gondola with an additional lap bar, kind of like what the Huss Topspin has. The extra brake on the gondola allowed the gondola to invert. 7 Waikiki Wave Superflips were produced, but sadly only one of them is known to be left operating today, at a park in Tunisia named Sfaxland. 2 other well-known examples of Vekoma's Waikiki Wave Superflip are Wipeout at Dreamland in Australia and Huracan in Six Flags Mexico. They both lasted a pretty long time, but Wipeout ended up being removed after the 2018 season, and Huracan after the 2019 season.
The Vekoma Canyon Trip, Waikiki Wave and Waikiki Wave Superflip have a lot of things in common. The most notable similarities are the fact that they all make really loud noises and that they were all mechanical nightmares. Hence, almost all of them got removed.
In 1993, the same year that Vekoma made their first Waikiki Wave Superflip, another Dutch manufacturer, Mondial, introduced the Rollover. This transportable ride is technically a more extreme version of the Supernova. Like the Waikiki Wave Superflip, the Rollover has brakes that allow the gondola to go upside down and flip. Originally, the gondola had 40 seats looking sideways. Unlike the Vekoma Waikiki Wave, this ride is transportable just like the Supernova.
Between 1993 and 1995, Mondial produced 5 rollovers. 4 of them were sold to European showmen and 1 of them was sold to a park, Groneland in Stockholm, Sweden.
Out of the 5 rollovers, 3 of them were converted to a new seating arrangement with the riders sitting back to back looking outwards instead of sideways. 1 of the 3 was sold to La Ronde in Canada, where it operates as Demon to this day. It sadly is the only Mondial rollover left operating.
The 2 other rollovers that had the gondola conversion were painted with an identical color scheme as Demon, but they were never sold. They still sit at the Mondial factory to this day and they are up for sale.
From here on out, information becomes very scarce on these rides. Sometime in the 1990s, Soriani and Moser introduced the Loop on Top and Super Loop on Top. These 2 rides were very similar, with the Loop on Top being more like a Huss Topspin with no bending arms. Accordingly, it was covered in the second episode of Flat Ride of the Week. The Super Loop on Top featured 2 bending arms. Unfortunately, information on these rides is again hard to find, but from what we could tell, the ride could be manufactured with 1 or 2 arms being able to bend, and the choice was up to the buyer. These rides proved quite successful in the 1990s, but by 2001, these rides had been discontinued.
An example of a super loop on top is the Vortigo at Etnaland in Italy. This ride is formerly known as Superman at Wiener Prater, where it actually replaced a normal Moser loop on top.
The Moser Rides Maverick is one of only 3 rides of this design that is still in production. The Maverick is essentially a smaller version of the Loop on Top. Like the Loop on Top, Maverick comes in multiple versions. It can be bought with 2 non-bending arms, or 1 non-bending arm and 1 bending arm. It has various gondola options, all using standard sit-down seating. The gondola comes in both single and double row versions, seating between 20 and 40 riders per cycle, depending on the gondola the buyer decides to go with. These rides have become very popular with smaller parks all around the world, with one of the most well-known examples, in the US anyway, being Twister at Lake Winnie. ZAMPERLA apparently worked with Moser on the Super Loop on Top, though details on this are very hard to find. Out of this partnership, ZAMPERLA introduced the Windshear in the 1990s. Much like the Super Loop on Top, this ride was available in 2 versions, with 2 bending arms or just 1. These days, only the single bending arm design is still in production. Unlike the Moser Rides version, all of these rides featured suspended gondolas, meaning the rider's feet are left hanging freely during the ride. The ride features 3 gondola options, a 22-rider version, 36-rider version, and a 40-rider version. It's available in both park and transportable models. This ride has become very popular in Asia, however very few have been installed in the West.
KMG's competition to this type of ride is named Discovery. It's a lot smaller than the other models of this type of ride, fitting on just 1 trailer. The gondola fits 20 people, however the prototype, which debuted in 1993, only had 18 seats to make place for a diesel engine. 4 Discoveries were sold to European showmen and 3 of them are still traveling in France, Germany and Switzerland. And in 2015, KMG introduced a modernized version of the Discovery. The most notable difference is that the gondola is now floorless and it has different restraints. In 2015, KMG sold 2 of the second generation Discoveries, with one traveling in Germany and one in Australia.
Sadly, that's about all we have for these types of rides. Due to their rarity, neither me nor Alex have been able to ride one yet. And also, a lot of the information on these rides is very hard to find. A lot of these Italian manufacturers, tracing back the history of these rides is very difficult. So we apologize if this video did not have as many details as you're used to. If you have any information on these types of rides, feel free to share it in the comments below, and in the future we may revisit some of these rides in their own dedicated video. Thanks for watching, and we'll see you next week.